I stood there in the blinding Colorado sun, squinting at the empty spot where our car had been just 10 minutes ago. My wife, Chloe, and her friends Ella, Stephanie, and Lauren had vanished. At first, I thought it was one of their stupid pranks. They were always doing stuff like this, pushing boundaries, testing how much I'd take before I snapped. 5 years of marriage and I'd gotten used to their little games. The way they'd laugh at me, the way Chloe would join in instead of standing up for me. But this felt different. My phone was still plugged into the car charger, my wallet tucked in the glove box. All I had was the faded t-shirt and jeans I was wearing, and a growing pit in my stomach as the minutes ticked by. We'd been on this road trip to Stephanie's lake house for 3 days now, and I'd been miserable the whole time. Chloe had begged me to come, said it'd be a chance to bond with her crew. I wasn't big on the idea. Her friends always treated me like an outsider, tossing out jabs and inside jokes I wasn't part of. But I went anyway, because I loved her. Or at least I thought I did. The gas station was in the middle of nowhere, just a dusty little stop off the highway, with a flickering sign and a single pump. I'd gone inside to use the bathroom, figuring they'd wait. They always waited. Except this time they didn't. An hour passed. I paced the cracked pavement, kicking pebbles, telling myself they'd come back any second. Tires crunching gravel, Chloe's voice calling out gotcha. But the road stayed quiet. 2 hours in, sweat was dripping down my neck and my throat was dry. I kept replaying the last few days in my head. The way Stephanie smirked when she accidentally spilled coffee on my lap. How Lauren whispered something to Chloe that made her giggle while glancing at me. How Ella just watched it all, with that smug little grin. I should have seen it coming. They'd been building up to something, and I'd been too dumb to notice. A truck pulled up, its engine rumbling loud enough to shake me out of my thoughts. The driver, a big guy with a gray beard and a stained ball cap, leaned out the window. "You okay, buddy? Been standing there a while." His voice was rough but kind. It hit me like a punch. I wasn't okay. They weren't coming back. Chloe wasn't coming back. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "Yeah, my ride left me. You think you could help?" He nodded like it wasn't the first time he'd seen someone stranded out here. "Hop in where you headed." I didn't even know. Home, back to Chloe, the life we built. But as I climbed into the cab, something shifted inside me. 5 years of her laughing at me, brushing me off, letting her friends treat me like garbage. It all came rushing up, hot and heavy. I stared out the window as the gas station shrank in the side mirror. The trucker didn't ask too many questions, just kept driving, humming some old country song. My hands clenched into fists on my lap. I could have borrowed his phone, called Chloe, demanded answers. But what would she say? "It was a joke, babe. Don't be so sensitive." I'd heard it all before. Every time I complained about her friends, she'd roll her eyes and tell me I didn't get their humor. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I never would. But standing there alone, abandoned like some stray dog, I realized something. They didn't get me either. And Chloe, she'd pick them over me again and again. The trucker dropped me off at a crossroad, pointing me toward Grand Junction, the nearest town. "Good luck, man," he said, tipping his cap. I nodded, my throat tight, and started walking. My shoes scuffed the dirt, the sun beating down on my head. No phone, no money, no plan. Just me in the open road. Part of me wanted to turn back, to beg someone at the gas station to call her, to fix this. But another part, a louder part, kept pushing me forward. I was done being the punchline. Done being the guy they laughed at. Chloe and her friends thought they'd won, thought they'd broken me. But as I trudged toward Grand Junction, a strange calm settled over me. They hadn't broken me. They'd set me free. I didn't know what was waiting for me in that town. I didn't know how I'd eat, where I'd sleep, or how I'd get by with nothing. But for the first time in years, I wasn't scared of what Chloe would think. I wasn't worried about her friend's next move. I was alone. Yeah, but I wasn't helpless. The road stretched out ahead, endless and empty, and I kept walking. They left me behind, but maybe that was the best thing they could have done. Maybe this was my chance to figure out who I was without her, without them. By the time the sun started dipping low, turning the sky orange, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going back. Not to Chloe, not to that life. Whatever came next, it was mine to build. I stood at that dusty crossroad where the trucker dropped me off, the Colorado wind kicking up little swirls of dirt around my feet. Grand Junction was somewhere ahead, but I didn't have a map, a phone, or a dime to my name. Just the clothes on my back and a head full of spinning thoughts. Chloe and her friends had left me high and dry, and part of me still wanted to find a way to call her, to hear her voice, to demand she turn the car around. But then I remembered how she'd laughed when Stephanie accidentally knocked my beer over at the lake house. How she'd shrugged when I asked her to stick up for me. 5 years of that. 5 years of feeling like a guest in my own marriage. No, I wasn't calling her. Not this time. I started walking toward town, my sneakers crunching on the gravel. The sun was still high, baking the ground, and sweat soaked through my shirt. I didn't know how far Grand Junction was. Miles, probably. But I didn't care. Every step felt like a choice, like I was leaving her behind one footprint at a time. My mind kept drifting back to the gas station, to the moment I stepped out of that grimy bathroom and saw nothing but empty pavement. They planned it, hadn't they? Hadn't Chloe, Stephanie, Ella, Lauren, all giggling in the car as they peeled out, thinking it'd be hilarious to ditch me. I could almost hear Chloe saying he'll figure it out. He always does. Well, I was figuring it out now, just not the way she expected. A pickup truck rumbled by, and I stuck out my thumb, hoping for a lift. The driver, a guy with a scruffy beard and a faded flannel shirt, slowed down and leaned out the window. Need a ride, he asked, eyeing me like he wasn't sure if I was trouble. Yeah, heading to Grand Junction, I said, keeping my voice steady. He nodded. Hop in, I'm going that way. I climbed into the passenger seat, grateful for the break. The cab smelled like oil and cigarettes, but it beat walking. Answer story, he asked as we rolled down the highway. I hesitated, then shrugged. Got left behind by some people I thought I could trust. He grunted like he'd heard that one before. Happens more than you'd think out here. He dropped me off on the edge of Grand Junction, near a cluster of low buildings and a blinking traffic light. Take care, man, he said, and drove off. I stood there taking it in. A small town with a mix of old brick storefronts and newer chain stores. People going about their day like nothing was wrong, but everything was wrong for me. No wallet, no ID, no way to prove who I was. I needed help, and fast. I spotted a sign for a homeless shelter a few blocks down, a plain building with a cross painted on the side. My stomach twisted at the thought. Me in a shelter, but what choice did I have? Inside it was dim and smelled like bleach and stale coffee. A guy behind the counter looked up. Roy, his name tag said. He was older, maybe 50, with a shaved head and a no-nonsense stare. You lost or just broke? He asked, sizing me up. Both, I admitted, rubbing the back of my neck. Got ditched out on the highway. No money, no phone, nothing. Roy didn't blink. Happens. You got a name, yeah. Mike, I said, figuring it was easier to stick to the truth for now. He handed me a clipboard with a form. Fill this out, we'll get you a bed for the night. Tomorrow we'll figure out the rest. That night, I lay on a cot in a room full of snoring strangers, staring at the ceiling. My mind wouldn't shut off. Chloe's face kept popping up, her voice her laugh. I wanted to hate her, but part of me still ached for her to show up, to say it was all a mistake. But Roy's words stuck with me. Tomorrow we'll figure out the rest. He didn't mess around. The next morning, he sat me down with a cup of weak coffee and a plan. You need ID to do anything, job, bank, whatever. Takes time, but we'll start the process. Meantime, you need cash. I nodded, feeling useless. Anywhere hiring, I asked. Roy smirked. There's a diner down the street. Owner's a tough old broad named Jacqueline. Tell her I sent you. Tell her I sent you. The diner was a squat little place called Jackie's with red vinyl booths and a jukebox in the corner. Jacqueline was behind the counter, a wiry woman in her 60s with tattoos snaking up her arms and a voice like gravel. Roy says you need work, she said, not even looking up from wiping the counter. Yeah, I do, I replied, shifting on my feet. Anything you got. She squinted at me like she was trying to see through me. Dishwasher quit yesterday. Pays crap. Hours are long. You steal from me, you're dead. Start now. I blinked, caught off guard but nodded. Okay, I'm in. She tossed me an apron and just like that, I was scrubbing plates in the back, hot water soaking my hands. It wasn't much, but it was something. Something mine. No Chloe, no friends laughing at me. Just me and a stack of greasy dishes. Roy checked in later that week, helped me file for a replacement ID. You're doing all right, Mike, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. I wasn't so sure, but I kept going. The shelter became my home. Jacqueline's diner, my lifeline. I didn't call Chloe, didn't even try. Every night I fell asleep exhausted, but it was a good kind of tired. I was starting over from nothing, and it felt like maybe, just maybe, I can make it work. I woke up on that cot in the shelter every morning with the same ache in my back, the same buzz of snores and coughs from the other guys around me. It had been a couple of weeks since Chloe and her friends ditched me at that gas station, and I was still getting used to this new life. Scrubbing dishes at Jacqueline's diner, sleeping on a borrowed bed, wearing clothes from a donation bin. My hands were raw from the hot water and soap, but I didn't mind. It kept me busy, kept my mind off her. Roy had been a rock, helping me navigate the mess of getting a replacement ID. Takes time, he'd said, handing me a stack of forms, but you'll get there. I nodded, grateful for his gruff kindness, and kept pushing forward. The diner was my world now. She'd bark orders from the counter, her sharp eyes catching every mistake. Move faster, Mike. We ain't got all day, she'd yell. But there was no real venom in it. I worked double shifts whenever I could, piling up cash in a little envelope I stashed under my cot. My first paycheck wasn't much, but it was enough to buy a cheap prepaid phone from the gas station down the street. I held it in my hands, the plastic still shiny, and felt a rush of something like pride. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine, bought with my own money. Not Chloe's, not anyone else's. I didn't need her anymore. Then the calls started. I'd only had the phone a day when it buzzed in my pocket while I was elbow deep in suds. I wiped my hands on my apron and pulled it out. Chloe's number flashed on the screen. My stomach dropped. I let it ring, watching it like it might bite me, until it went to voicemail. A minute later, the notification popped up. I shouldn't have listened, but I did. Her voice came through, soft and shaky, like she'd been practicing what to say. Mike, where are you? We waited for you. It was just a joke. We're so worried, please call me back. I stood there, staring at the sink, the water still running. Worried. They'd left me in the middle of nowhere with nothing. If they'd waited, they'd have come back by now. The phone buzzed again. Stephanie, this time. I hit play on her voicemail and her tone was totally different, all smug and casual. Come on, dude, you have to admit it was hilarious. Call us back, all right. Hilarious. I clenched the phone so hard my knuckles went white. That's what I was to them. A punchline. A story to laugh about over drinks at the lake house. More calls came after that, a flood of them. Chloe again, then Lauren, then Stephanie piling up with texts and voicemails. We miss you. Where'd you go? This isn't funny anymore. I scrolled through them all, my chest tight, my head spinning, wife spinning. Chloe's words kept echoing. Fake concern, fake tears. She didn't care. None of them did. I sat on my cot that night, the shelter quiet except for the creak of springs and the hum of the heater. The phone glowed in my hand, their messages lighting up the screen. I listened to Chloe's first one again, then Stephanie's, then one from Lauren that was just her giggling before it cut off. My thumb hovered over the call button. Part of me wanted to dial Chloe, scream at her, to ask why she'd done this. But what would it change? She'd just laugh it off or cry and make me feel guilty, like she always did. I'd spent years swallowing their crap, smiling through it, because I thought that's what a good husband did. Not anymore. I went through the list. Chloe, Stephanie, Ella, Lauren, and blocked every single one. My fingers shook a little as I did it, but once it was done, the phone went silent. No more buzzing, no more lies. I leaned back against the wall, letting out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. It felt like cutting a rope I'd been tangled in for years. They couldn't reach me now. They didn't get to decide how this ended. I did. The next day I went back to the diner like nothing had happened, plunging my hands into the dishwater, letting the heat burn away the last of their voices in my head. Jacqueline noticed something was off, though. You're quiet today, she said, tossing me a rag to wipe down the counter. Trouble? I shrugged, not wanting to get into it, just sorting some stuff out. She snorted. Long as it don't mess with my kitchen sort of way. I smirked at that. She didn't care about my drama, just the job. It was refreshing. Roy checked in later, handing me a paper with a case number for my ID. Coming along, he said, You holding up? I nodded. Yeah, better than I thought. He clapped me on the shoulder and left me to it. By the end of the week, I'd saved enough to buy a second-hand jacket from the shelter's donation pile. Nothing fancy, but it kept the chill off. I walked back to my cot that night, the prepaid phone silent in my pocket, and felt lighter. Chloe and her friends were gone, cut out like a bad habit. I didn't need their apologies or their excuses. I had work, a bed, a plan. Small things, but the ache was still there, sure, the sting of betrayal. But it was fading. Every dish I scrubbed, every dollar I tucked away, I was building something new. Something they couldn't touch. And for the first time in a long time, I fell asleep without dreaming of her. I'd been at the diner for months now, and things were starting to feel steady. Not perfect, but steady. The shelter was still my home, but I'd saved enough to move into a tiny studio above a laundromat in Grand Junction. It wasn't much, just a single room with a lumpy mattress, a hot plate, and a bathroom so small I could barely turn around in it. But it was mine. No more cots, no more snoring strangers, just a key in my pocket and a door I could lock. Jacqueline had seen me busting my tail at the diner and bumped me up to prep cook, which meant more hours and a little more cash. Like I was earning something real. The nights were still tough, though. I'd lie on that creaky mattress, staring at the water stains on the ceiling, and Chloe would creep into my head. I'd see her smile, hear her laugh. Not the mean one she used with her friends, but the soft one she'd give me back when things were good, back before I became her punching bag. I'd wonder what she was doing if she missed me, if she even cared. The loneliness hit hard sometimes, a cold weight in my chest that wouldn't go. But then morning would come and I'd drag myself out of bed, pull on my jacket, and head to the diner. No fear of her judgment, no cruel jabs from her friends. Just me, free to breathe, free to be. One night after a long shift, I was messing around with my prepaid phone, bored and restless. I kept it simple, no contacts, no ties to the past. But curiosity got the better of me. I made a fake social media account, just a random name and no picture, and looked her up. Chloe's profile popped up, still public, still full of her perfect little. There were pictures from the lake house trip, her and Stephanie posing by the water, Ella grinning with a drink in her hand. Then I saw it, a post about me. It was a photo of us from years ago, smiling at some picnic, and her caption hit me like a slap. Missing my love, I pray he finds his way back to me. I stared at it, my thumb frozen on the screen. Missing me. She hadn't even gone back for me. She'd driven off and left me to rot. I almost laughed right there in that dingy apartment. The sound bouncing off the bare walls. It was so fake, so Chloe were turning herself into the victim, like I'd wandered off on my own instead of being abandoned. I scrolled through the comments. Stephanie saying he'll turn up. Don't worry. Lauren chiming in with sending you hugs. And my stomach turned. They were all in on it, playing this game, like I was the bad guy. I clicked off the phone and tossed it onto the mattress, running my hands through my hair. She hadn't changed. None of them had. But I had. I wasn't the guy in that picnic photo anymore. The one who'd grin and take it while they tore me down. I was someone else now, someone they didn't. The next day at the diner, I was quieter than usual, still chewing on what I'd seen. Jacqueline noticed, of course. She always did. You look like someone kicked your dog, she said, sliding a plate of fries my way during a slow moment. I shrugged, picking at the food, just thinking too much. She raised an eyebrow, her tattooed arms crossed. About what? That ex of yours. I froze, surprised she guessed it. I'd never told her the whole story, just bits and pieces. Yeah, I admitted. Saw something online. She's acting like she's the one who got hurt. Jacqueline snorted, loud and sharp. Sounds like a real piece of work. Good riddance, kid. I nodded, managing a small smile. She was right. Good riddance. Work kept me grounded. I diced vegetables, flipped burgers when the cook needed a hand, wiped down counters. Anything to keep moving. The diner had its regulars, folks who'd nod at me or leave a couple bucks on the table, and that felt good. Like I was part of something. My hands were callous now, my arms stronger from hauling crates and scrubbing pans. I'd catch my reflection in the diner's glass door sometimes. Tired eyes, messy hair, but a guy who was making it. One day at a time. Chloe's post faded from my mind, replaced by the clatter of plates and Jacqueline's gruff voice calling out orders. I stopped checking her social media after that. They didn't need whatever she was saying, whatever story she was spinning, it didn't matter. I had my studio, my job, my life, small, sure, but growing. The loneliness still came around, especially on quiet nights when the laundromat downstairs hummed and rattled, but it wasn't as sharp anymore. I'd wake up to the smell of detergent drifting through the floorboards, pull on my boots, and head out into the cold morning air. No one was waiting to mock me. No one was rolling their eyes at my every word. I could just be Mike, plain, simple Mike. And that was enough. And that was enough. For the first time in years, I felt like I was standing on solid ground, not sinking in quicksand. Freedom wasn't loud or flashy. It was this. My key, my paycheck, my choice, and I wasn't giving it back. I'd been living above the laundromat for a while now, settling into a routine that felt like mine. Work at the diner, save my cash, sleep in my own space. The days blended together, but they were good days, steady ones. Then she walked in. Sienna. She started coming to Jacqueline's diner twice a week, always in the same booth by the window, always with a stack of textbooks and a pen in her hand. She was a med student, I figured, from the way she'd mutter medical terms under her breath while scribbling notes. Her order never changed. Denver omelet, no tomatoes, extra coffee. And she'd barely look up when I brought it over. I'd watch her sometimes, amused at how she'd get so lost in her studying, that her fork would hover halfway to her mouth for a full minute before she noticed. I don't know why I started messing with her. Maybe I was bored. Maybe I just wanted to see if she'd crack a smile. I'd swap out my name tag with random names I'd make up. Bob one day, Steve the next, Carl after that, just to see if she'd catch it. She didn't at first, too buried in her books. But one morning I walked over with Rusty pinned to my shirt, and she finally looked up. Her eyes narrowed, flicking to the tag, then back to my face. Your name tag is wrong, she said, her voice quiet but firm, like she was diagnosing me. I grinned, caught off guard. Is it? I shot back, even though it was. My real name was Mike, and she'd never asked. She smirked, just a little, and went back to her notes. That was it. Our first real moment, and it stuck with me. Work kept me busy, but Sienna became the highlight of my week. She'd show up, order her usual, and I'd find excuses to swing by her table, refill her coffee, clear her plate, ask if she needed anything. She'd nod or mumble a thanks, but that smirk stayed in my head like a challenge. One day she came in looking frazzled, her hair messy, her books heavier than usual. Rough night, I asked, setting her coffee down. She sighed, rubbing her eyes. Exams. I haven't slept in 2 days. I nodded, not pushing it, but I slipped an extra hash brown onto her plate when she wasn't looking. She noticed, glanced up at me, and said, You're sneaky. I just shrugged. Got to keep you awake somehow. Our first date wasn't even planned. She came in one evening, all dressed up, jeans and a nice top, not her usual sweatshirt, and told me her friends had bailed on a reservation at some fancy pizza place across town. I'm not wasting it, she said, half to herself, then looked at me. You free? I was wiping down the counter, my shift almost over, and Jacqueline was in earshot. Go on, kid, she barked, waving me off. You're no use to me moping around. So I went. We split a pepperoni pizza and a pitcher of soda, and she laughed. Really laughed when I told her about the name tag thing. I knew it wasn't Rusty, she said, her eyes bright. You're not that old. We talked all night about her med school stress, my diner gig, dumb stuff like favorite movies. It was easy, natural, like we'd known each other forever. 6 months later, she moved into my little studio. It was cramped, her books took up half the space, and we'd trip over each other making dinner on that tiny hot plate. But I didn't care. She'd study late, her lamp glowing while I slept, and I'd wake up to her muttering anatomy terms in her sleep. It was weirdly comforting. A year after that, we got a bigger place together. A real apartment with a kitchen and a couch that didn't smell like bleach. Sienna was different from Chloe. She didn't mock me, didn't make me feel small. When I doubted myself, she'd just say, You've got this, and somehow, I'd believe her. Somehow I'd believe her. We'd cook together, watch old TV shows, argue over who left the dishes in the sink. It was simple, but it was ours. Meanwhile, Chloe wouldn't let go. She started emailing me, found my address somehow, probably from an old bill or something. The first one came a few weeks after Sienna moved in, popping up on my phone while I was chopping peppers at the diner. Mike, I just want to know you're okay, it read. I miss you. We all do. I stared at it, my knife hovering over the cutting board. Miss me. She'd left me at a gas station with nothing, laughed about it with her friends, and now she missed me. I deleted it without replying. More came after that. Some short, some long, all dripping with that fake sweetness she'd mastered. I messed up, I know. Please talk to me. I saw your grandma. She's worried. I'd read them, feel that old ache in my chest, then hit delete. Sienna caught me once, frowning at my phone. Who's that? She asked. Nobody, I said. She didn't push. She didn't need to. I wasn't going back. Life with Sienna was good, better than I thought I deserved. The diner was humming, my hands were steady, and Chloe's emails were just noise I could tune out. I'd built something new, something solid, and every day with Sienna proved it. She'd tease me about my cooking. I'd laugh at her terrible singing, and we'd fall asleep tangled up on that second-hand couch. Chloe could write all she wanted. I didn't owe her a damn thing. My world was here now with Sienna, and I wasn't letting go. I stood in the kitchen of Jacqueline's diner, flipping a burger on the grill, the sizzle filling the air as grease popped against my apron. Things had been good, better than good, really. Sienna and I were settled in our new apartment, a step up from the cramped studio above the laundromat. It had a real bedroom, a stove that didn't smoke, and a window that let in actual sunlight. Life felt solid, like I'd finally climbed out of the hole Chloe and her friends had left me in. Work was steady too. I'd been at the diner long enough that Jacqueline trusted me with more than just dishes and prep. She'd started leaning on me, barking less and nodding more when I got things done right. That day, though, she called me over to the counter during a slow stretch, her sharp eyes locked on me like she had something big to say. Mike, she said, wiping her hands on a rag, you're not half bad at this. I smirked, thinking she was joking, but her face stayed serious. I'm opening a second spot across town, she continued. Smaller joint, but mine. Need someone to run it. You in. I froze, spatula in hand, the burger sizzling behind me. Me, run a diner. I'd gone from scrubbing plates to cooking, sure, but managing a whole place. You serious? I asked, my voice rougher than I meant it to be. She snorted. Do I look like I'm kidding? You've got the chops. Work hard, don't steal, don't whine. Say yes or no. My head spun. A year ago, I'd been dumped at a gas station with nothing. Nothing. No, I was getting offered this. I almost said no, convinced it was some trick, like Chloe's pranks all over again. That night, I sat on our couch, Sienna beside me, staring at the TV without really watching it. She came home from a late study session, dropping her bag by the door, and saw me just sitting there. What's up? She asked, kicking off her shoes. I told her about Jacqueline's offer, my voice low, like saying it out loud might jinx it. She wants me to run her new diner. Me in charge. Sienna plopped down next to me, her knee brushing mine. And you're thinking about turning it down, she said, reading me like always. I shrugged, rubbing my neck. I don't know. What if I screw it up? She grabbed my hand, her grip firm. You're already running that place half the time, helping with orders, fixing stuff when she's yelling at someone else. Just make it official. You've got this. Her words hit me hard like a shove I didn't know I needed. She didn't doubt me, not for a second. And that felt new, strange good. Chloe would have laughed, said something like you, a boss, and her friends would have piled on. But Sienna just looked at me, steady and sure, and I nodded. Okay, I'll do it, she smiled. That small one I loved, and leaned her head on my shoulder. Good, now stop moping. We've got dishes to do. I laughed, the weight lifting a little, and we washed plates together, her humming some off-key song while I splashed water at her. The next day, I told Jacqueline yes. She grunted like she'd expected it and handed me a set of keys. Don't burn it down, she said, then went away to counting cash. The new diner was a hole-in-the-wall spot, 10 tables, a counter, a kitchen barely big enough for two. But it was mine to run. Started the next week, setting up schedules, ordering supplies, cooking when the line got slammed. It was chaos at first. Waitresses forgetting orders, me burning a batch of fries, but I figured it out. Sienna was right. I've been doing this stuff already, just without the title. The place started humming, regulars trickling in, and Jacqueline even stopped by once, nodding like she approved. Not bad, kid, she said, and I felt taller than I had in years. Then Chloe's email came. I was at the new diner, checking inventory on my phone, when it popped up. Mike, your grandmother's been asking about you. Please let us know you're alive. My stomach twisted. Grandma. She'd always been sweet, sending me cards even after I married Chloe. But Chloe bringing her up now, it was a cheap shot, a hook to reel me back in. I pictured her typing it, fake tears in her eyes, trying to guilt me like always. I deleted it, my thumb slamming the screen harder than it needed to. She didn't get to use Grandma against me. Not after what she'd done. I hadn't called home in a while, sure, but I'd fix that myself, not through her. I threw myself into the diner after that, keeping my hands busy so my mind wouldn't wander. The place was picking up. Truckers stopping by, locals chatting me up like I was one of them. I'd come home to Sienna studying at our table, her books spread out, and she'd ask how it went. Good, say, and mean it. We'd cook dinner, nothing fancy, just pasta or burgers, and they the future. Chloe's emails kept coming, piling up in my trash folder, but I didn't open them. She was a ghost, a shadow I could ignore. My life was here, the diner, Sienna, the keys in my pocket. I'd been abandoned once, left to figure it out, and I had. Now I was building something better, something they couldn't touch. Every night I locked up the diner, drove home to Sienna, and felt like a man who'd finally found his footing.